ragas. And I know that we've talked a little bit about ragas in this class before, but before I play one, I'm just going to give some background on it. So, Indian raga, just the cultural history is that it did start out as religious music. So it began in temples, and it has a very meditative sound because of that, I think. And it actually began thousands of years ago, so it's been around for quite a while. And it originally started as one type of music for not just India, but also Southeast Asia. And it wasn't until India became a union that it actually switched into the lower part of India having its own sound, and then the upper part of India having its own sound as well. So in the beginning, singers and instrumentalists were kind of subpar to the dancers, and the dancers were really the whole reason why there was music to begin with. So now that India is a union, now everyone is seen as equal, and dance is typically separate from music. But before, it was, musicians were kind of looked down on in a way as well, kind of like what you were saying with Israel. It's a little bit cut off, but there's an Indian temple. Never mind, I do need you. Okay, it's alright. Now you get a nice up close view of the facts.
Okay, is it?
Yes, there's India, and there's the temple. And so the next slide says how Indian music is learned, and it is really learned orally, and it is taught, there it is, it's taught directly from a guru to a disciple. And the guy that I had found in New York City, actually his name is Samir Chatterjee, and he's from India, and he actually is a guru, and he right now has a few of his disciples in the area. They just flew in from India, and he was explaining to me that it's not like a lesson situation that we would have here in the United States or in the Western world. They actually become a part of each other's lives in a really close way. Like they share their hearts with each other, they share meals together, and it ends up being a very, very close relationship. And they feel that that's how a lot of the different things in the raga, where it's like almost unspoken things that you can't necessarily put into words, they almost feel like it's a spirit to spirit interaction, like their souls come together in a way. So it's very, very deep. And it typically takes years and years. Like a guru will take on a disciple for years. And it is all orally taught. So when I was taking lessons from this man, Samir, he requested that we didn't use any music, and I just did it all based on what I was hearing him play. Next slide, please. So a raga in Indian music is actually not a scale, even though it looks like a scale, and even though it looks like it would be. There are different ones, and right here is an example of a few different types of ragas. So each raga is based on a specific time of the day. So there's morning ragas, evening ragas, afternoon ragas, and it's on pretty much a 3-hour time scale. So this one, the Bilawal, which is what I'm going to play a raga based off of the Bilawal for you. It's from 9 a.m. to noon, a late morning raga. And instead of using solfege like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, their version is sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, mi, sa. So let's all try saying that together. So starting from right here, I'm actually going to play, and if you can sing or say, if you don't feel comfortable singing, if you can just sing or say it along with me. So starting with sa on this top one right here. Ready? Perfect. Awesome. Great. So that is just the ascending. And then with this one, which I'll show in a second, the descending is very different. And then for these ones, the Kalon, Barab, and Peruvi, they all have different accidentals, but they obviously don't call them accidentals, but it's very different. And each one is specifically purposed to evoke different emotions, which is called the rasa. So the whole entire point of a raga, the whole reason why they decided to come up with these, is specifically to get people into a specific emotion. And we know that music is very emotional, and I think Indian culture really understood that, which I think is super cool. And then there's slight variations in these scales, whether or not it is Carnatic, which is the southern part, or Hindustani, which is the northern part of Indian music. So, can we go to the next slide? So, I kind of already explained all of that, but here's where the Hindustani music is going to be, and then the Carnatic. The Bilawal is Hindustani, and then if you could do the next one. So, this is a morning raga, and it's the most popular and most famous, and as we all just sang together, it sounded very much like the, what scale? C, yeah, just like a C scale. But on the way down, which is called the Avarohan, we have this Arohan, there are a couple of changes, and one is that there's a flat 7 on the way down. So I'm going to play from the going up and then going down. So it's just slightly different in how it goes. And then the next part of a raga is the tala, which is the rhythm portion of the raga. And this one has an arteka, the one that Samir had actually written, which I'm going to play in a second. And if you could hit the next slide. A tala is the rhythm cycle of a raga. So, talas can have a 3-beat cycle up to 108 beats in one cycle. So there's a lot of variety that you can have within a tala. And the division of tala and the stress of the first beat is called the sum, and these are the most important rhythmic factors. And a typical setting of a raga has one singer or an instrument that sounds like a voice. Kind of like with Middle Eastern music, they're all about the instrument that sounds like a voice or having something sound like a voice. And that one will kind of work with the drummer, and the drummer or the tabla player will accompany. So we're going to learn a 10-beat tala. So instead of a lot of our measures have just 3 beats or 4 beats or 2 beats, this one has 10. So I'll demonstrate first, and then we can all try it together. So the emphasis is going to be on the first beat, the 3rd beat, and the 8th beat. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So everyone get out your hands. And it's going to be 1, 2, so finger and, your thumb and pinky come together. And then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. A little faster. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oops, I was done. Okay, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, beautiful. You all got it right. Okay, next one, please. Okay, so a typical raga, this is just the breakdown of it. In the beginning, it has something called an alap, and that is what sounds really, to me, very meditative. And this is the part that can take years and years and years to master because it's all improv. And it's still based on the scale, it's not a scale, but it's based on the scale-like portion of whatever the raga theme is. So this one is Bilawal that I'm about to play. So it has the C sounding scale. It's not, but it sounds kind of like that in this raga. And then slightly towards the middle of the alap section is the jor, and that's where a little bit of rhythm enters. Not a lot, but it starts to pick up the pace. And then in the jala, that's where a little bit of, I guess, the personality of the actual raga comes in, and that's typically a set composition. So then after the set composition is played, actually when the set composition is played, the drums come in as well. And then at the very end is the jala, and that part gets much more energetic and much more, just moves along a lot faster. And that's the culmination of the piece, and then it's over. So this one was actually written by Samir, the person who lives here in New York City from India. And it's based off of the Bilawal scale. That's not a scale, the Bilawal raga. And to begin, there is an ala section, and I'm just going to grab, there's like a little background noise. Since we don't have a tempura, and actually, would you mind hitting it one more time, please? Perfect. So the instrumentation, normally there would be a tempura in the background as a drone. So I'm going to use this instead. And then the possible solo instruments are all the instruments that can sound like a voice or a voice. So things like a violin and a flute, you could do it, or that one, or any of the others. So this is going to be the alap section. So that would be like the alap section. And then for the actual Bilawal, actually, before we do this, it's broken up into a few different sections where the timing or the rhythm modulations happen, and the rhythm modulations in Indian music is called the guns. So at first it's just in a normal 10-beat structure, and then it is modulated up to 1.5 times the regular beat, and then it goes into the last section. So this might stop in a minute. last portion, which is called the jala, they mainly come back to the C. So the first note of a raga scale type of a thing is the most important, and typically everything kind of revolves around that do note. And then in the last part, it was played 3 times, and that's because 3 in Indian culture is the number of perfection. And so typically whenever they finish something, it's always going to be played 3 times. So that's why the whole last section, the jala, where it was a little bit faster and different, that was played 3 times, and then the C, which is the do note, or in this case the sa, that was played 3 times to indicate, okay, it's done now. Yeah, so that is, if you could hit the next one, please. And the next one after that. And one more. Thank you. Yeah, that's everything. It was just incredible to learn from someone who was a part of the culture and has spent so much of his life learning about the raga, and he mainly plays the tabla, which is the drums, but he still has such a depth of knowledge on raga specifically. So it was cool to talk with someone who actually knows the culture versus just reading it off of a page. I just found that I was able to connect with it so much more, and it didn't seem so foreign because I was able to put like a name and a face to it. And just hearing from his perspective is so interesting. So yeah, if there's any questions